Imagine being so rich that you don't just have money, but have so much power that entire industries quietly shift in your favor. In Kuala Lumpur, there exists a rare circle of women who don't just live in luxury. They operate in spaces where billions are controlled, influence is inherited, and access is everything. These are not ordinary success stories, but women tied to power, privilege, and systems built to last for generations. In this video, we count down 8 powerful Asian women who have built or inherited empires behind the scenes. 8. Tan Hooi Ling, the Grab Group. We begin with a woman who represents a different kind of wealth, one that didn't come from old money, political ties, or inherited empires, but from building something so powerful it reshaped an entire region. Tan Hooi Ling is the co-founder of Grab, a company that has grown into one of Southeast Asia's most dominant digital platforms. But to understand the level of wealth and influence she operates in today, you have to look at what Grab actually became. This isn't just a ride-hailing app, it is a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem. What started as a simple idea, making transportation safer and more efficient, quickly evolved into something far bigger. Grab expanded into food delivery, digital payments, financial services, and logistics. Today, it operates across multiple countries including Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam, serving millions of users daily. That scale translates into serious money. At its peak, Grab reached a valuation of over $40 billion, placing it among the most valuable tech companies in Southeast Asia. And as a co-founder, Tan Hooi Ling holds a significant stake in that empire, meaning her wealth is directly tied to one of the most powerful digital infrastructures in the region. But what makes her presence on this list so interesting is how different her path is compared to the others. She didn't inherit a billion-dollar conglomerate. She didn't marry into a dynasty. She built her way into this circle. Educated at top global institutions, including Harvard Business School, Tan Hooi Ling combined business intelligence with strategic execution. Alongside her co-founder, she helped scale Grab from a startup into a company that now competes at the highest level of global tech. And in today's world, controlling a platform like Grab means more than just wealth. It means influence. Because think about it. When millions of people rely on your platform for transport, food, and payments, you're no longer just running a company, you're shaping daily life. You're embedded in the economy itself. That's a different level of power. Financially, while her exact net worth fluctuates with market conditions, it is widely understood that her stake in Grab places her firmly within the ranks of ultra-wealthy individuals in Southeast Asia. And unlike traditional assets like real estate or commodities, tech wealth has the potential to scale even further. But despite all of this, Tan Hooi Ling maintains a relatively low public profile. She's not constantly in the spotlight. She's not known for excessive displays of wealth. Instead, her influence operates through the platform she helped build. A system used by millions, generating billions, and continuing to expand. In Kuala Lumpur's evolving landscape of wealth, she represents something new. Not legacy power, not inherited dominance, but modern empire building. A reminder that in today's world, the next generation of billionaires aren't just born into power. Some of them build it from the ground up. But while some women build their way into billion-dollar empires, others are born directly into systems designed to generate wealth for generations. 7. Rebekah Yeoh, YTL Corporation Dynasty. At number 7 is a woman whose life is deeply embedded in one of Malaysia's most powerful corporate dynasties. Rebekah Yeoh is a key figure within YTL Corporation, a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that has quietly built one of the most diversified and resilient business empires in Southeast Asia. But to understand the level of wealth she is connected to, you have to look beyond titles and into the structure of the empire itself. YTL is not just one business. It is a network of industries: energy, infrastructure, telecommunications, luxury hospitality, real estate. These are not trend-based industries. These are sectors that form the backbone of entire economies. And when a company operates at that level, its revenue streams don't just fluctuate, they endure. That endurance is what creates generational wealth. Rebekah Yeoh operates within this structure as Corporate Finance Director, a role that places her directly in the financial engine room of the empire. This isn't a symbolic position. It involves managing capital, overseeing investments, and ensuring that billions in assets continue to grow strategically. And when you're dealing with assets of that magnitude, every decision carries weight. The YTL empire itself spans multiple countries, with major operations not just in Malaysia, but across the United Kingdom, Singapore, and other parts of Asia. From power generation plants to high-end hotels like the JW Marriott Kuala Lumpur, the group's footprint is both global and deeply rooted. This is what makes her position so powerful. She isn't just wealthy. She is part of a system that continuously produces wealth. Financially, the Yeoh family ranks among Malaysia's richest, with billions tied to publicly listed companies and privately held assets. And while individual net worth figures are often estimated, what is undeniable is the scale of the empire she is connected to. An empire that has been carefully built, expanded, and protected over decades. But beyond the numbers, there is something else at play here. Access. Rebekah Yeoh moves in circles where business decisions intersect with global markets, where investments are measured not in thousands or millions, but in hundreds of millions and beyond, where relationships are built at the highest levels of corporate and financial power. And yet, like many individuals at this level, she maintains a relatively low public profile. You won't see constant headlines. You won't see public displays of wealth. Because true legacy wealth doesn't need attention. It operates quietly through boardrooms, investment strategies, and long-term control of critical industries. In the context of Kuala Lumpur's elite, Rebekah Yeoh represents something very specific. Not just inherited wealth, but inherited structure. A system designed to last for generations, where power is not just held, but continuously reinforced. And as this countdown moves forward, the stories become even more layered because some women don't just operate within empires. They help define how those empires are seen on the global stage. Number 6. Lim Siew Kim, the Genting Group. At number 6 is a woman linked to one of the most recognizable and revenue-generating dynasties in Southeast Asia. Lim Siew Kim is part of the Genting Dynasty, a family empire that has transformed leisure, hospitality, and gaming into a multi-billion-dollar global business. While she maintains an extremely low public profile, her connection to this empire places her within one of the most financially powerful families in Malaysia. To understand the scale of wealth here, you have to understand what Genting really is. This is not just a company. It is an international luxury ecosystem. From the iconic resorts world Genting in Malaysia to massive integrated resorts in Singapore, the United States, and the United Kingdom, Genting has built a network of destinations designed to generate billions annually. These are not ordinary businesses. They are high-revenue environments where tourism, entertainment, and gaming converge. And where there is high spending, there is massive profit. The casino and resort industry is one of the most lucrative sectors globally. It attracts not just everyday tourists, but high-net-worth individuals, people who spend in amounts that most businesses never see. Genting positioned itself perfectly within this space, creating destinations that continuously pull in global wealth. That positioning is what makes this dynasty so powerful. It doesn't rely on a single country. It doesn't depend on one industry. It operates across borders, currencies, and markets, creating a steady and diversified flow of revenue. As a member of the family behind this empire, Lim Siew Kim is connected to wealth that runs into billions of dollars. While exact figures tied to her personally are not publicly disclosed, the Genting Group as a whole represents a financial structure of immense scale, with assets and operations spanning continents. But what makes her presence in this list particularly compelling is the level of privacy she maintains. Unlike global celebrities or public-facing executives, she exists almost entirely outside the spotlight. No frequent interviews, no constant media presence, no public display of wealth. And yet, behind that silence is access to one of the most powerful financial empires in the region. This is the essence of old money energy. Wealth that doesn't need to be proven, power that doesn't need to be announced. Just quiet, consistent control over assets that generate billions. In Kuala Lumpur's elite hierarchy, the Genting name carries a certain weight, one associated with luxury, exclusivity, and global reach. And being part of that structure places Lim Siew Kim firmly within a circle where wealth is not just accumulated but sustained at the highest level. But while some women are connected to wealth built on luxury and global entertainment, the next name on this list is tied to something far deeper. Power rooted in politics, land, and influence that spans decades. Number 5. Hanifah Hajar Taib Dynasty. At number 5 is a woman linked to one of Malaysia's most established political business dynasties. Hanifah Hajar Taib comes from the Taib family, a name long associated with significant political influence and deep economic interests in Malaysia, particularly in Sarawak. This is not the kind of wealth built in one generation or through a single industry. It is the result of decades of position, access, and control over key economic sectors. To understand this level of power, you have to look beyond companies and into systems. Because in dynastic wealth like this, influence is not just financial, it is structural. The Taib family has historically been linked to major holdings in areas such as land development, construction, timber-related industries, and large-scale infrastructure projects. These sectors are especially powerful because they are tied to long-term national development and resource allocation. And when a family is positioned within those systems for decades, the result is generational control over economic opportunity itself. Hanifah Hajar Taib represents a modern extension of that legacy. Educated internationally and involved in both business and public service roles, she operates at the intersection of governance and enterprise, where policy decisions and economic interests often overlap. This creates a unique form of influence, not just wealth accumulation, but access to decision-making environments that shape how wealth flows in the first place. While exact personal financial figures are not publicly disclosed in detail, her family's influence and historical business interests place her within a high-net-worth elite circle in Malaysia. But more importantly, her name is tied to a system where wealth is not only created, but sustained through generational positioning. Unlike corporate billionaires who depend on market performance, dynastic families like the Taibs operate on a different timeline. Their influence is long-term, their networks are deeply embedded, and their presence is often behind the scenes rather than in the spotlight. This is what makes this level of power so significant. It is not loud. It is not always visible, but it is persistent. And in elite circles like this, persistence often matters more than visibility. Hanifah Hajar Taib stands within that structure, representing a blend of legacy influence, institutional access, and generational continuity that keeps her family name relevant in Malaysia's evolving economic landscape. But while some women inherit influence rooted in political and resource-based systems, the next woman on this list represents a different kind of power. One built in the modern world of startups, innovation, and technology-driven disruption. Number 4. Cheryl Yeoh, Tech Power and Innovation Queen. Coming in at number 4 is a woman who represents Malaysia's evolving face of wealth and leadership in the tech world. Cheryl Yeoh is a Malaysian entrepreneur and tech leader who built her reputation in the startup ecosystem, one of the fastest-moving and most competitive wealth spaces in the world. Unlike traditional dynastic wealth, this is a world where value is created through ideas, execution, and scaling businesses that can reach millions globally. Her journey began in the tech startup space, where she founded and built companies that focused on innovation and digital solutions. One of her most well-known ventures was Reshaped, a personalized shopping and deal discovery platform, which was later acquired by Walmart Labs. That exit alone placed her in the category of successful tech founders who have turned ideas into tangible financial outcomes. But her influence did not stop there. After her entrepreneurial success, Cheryl Yeoh transitioned into a broader leadership role within the startup ecosystem, becoming deeply involved in supporting innovation, mentoring founders, and contributing to government-linked initiatives aimed at strengthening Malaysia's tech landscape. This is where her position becomes more powerful than it first appears. Because in the modern economy, influence is not only about owning companies, It is also about shaping the environment where companies are created. Through her work in startup development and ecosystem building, she has been involved in helping guide early-stage companies, support innovation policies, and contribute to programs that influence how technology and entrepreneurship grow within the region. That kind of access places her in a unique category. She is not just part of the tech economy. She helps shape its direction, financially, while she is not positioned in the billionaire bracket like traditional industrial dynasties. Her wealth is tied to successful exits, equity stakes, and ongoing involvement in high-growth ventures. And in the tech world, that kind of positioning can scale significantly over time depending on investments and ownership structures. But beyond numbers, what makes Cheryl Yeoh important in this list is representation of a new kind of power in Kuala Lumpur's elite landscape. A shift away from inherited industrial empires, political family wealth, traditional corporate structures, and toward startups, innovation ecosystems, and digital transformation. This is modern influence, fast-moving, global, and increasingly valuable in a world driven by technology. And as we move further up this countdown, the nature of power begins to shift again, because the next names are no longer just building or shaping industries. They are influencing global culture itself. But while some women shape the future of technology and startups, others step into a level of influence that cannot be measured by industries alone, because their power extends into global culture, fame, and international recognition. 3. Michelle Yeoh, the global icon. At number 3 is a woman whose name is known far beyond Malaysia, far beyond Asia, and firmly established on the global stage. Michelle Yeoh is one of the most internationally recognized Malaysian figures in history. An award-winning actress, global icon, and cultural force, she represents a different dimension of wealth and influence, one built not only on financial success but on decades of global visibility and elite positioning in the entertainment industry. Her career spans decades, beginning in action cinema, where she quickly became known for performing her own stunts and redefining the role of women in martial arts films. From Hong Kong cinema to Hollywood blockbusters, her presence steadily grew until she became one of the most respected names in global entertainment. But her rise did not stop at fame. It evolved into legacy. With major roles in internationally acclaimed films and eventual recognition at the highest level of global cinema, Michelle Yeoh transitioned from star power into cultural authority. She is no longer just an actress in films. She is a symbol of representation, excellence, and global Asian influence in entertainment. And that level of status brings access. Access to red carpets, luxury brand partnerships, international fashion houses, and elite social circles where influence is often more valuable than money itself. In these environments, relationships between culture, business, and high society often intersect, and individuals like Michelle Yeoh naturally occupy that space. Financially, her wealth comes from a combination of decades in film, endorsements, global brand collaborations, and high-value entertainment contracts. While she is not a billionaire in the traditional industrial sense, her net worth places her firmly within the ultra-high net worth category, supported by both earnings and long-term global recognition. But what truly makes her powerful in this countdown is not just wealth, it is reach. Because unlike dynastic families or corporate executives whose influence is often regional or industry-specific, Michelle Yeoh operates on a global scale. Her name carries weight in entertainment, fashion, philanthropy, and international media. She represents something important in this list. Soft power. The kind of influence that shapes perception, culture, and global visibility. And in today's world, that form of influence is just as powerful as financial control. From Malaysia to Hollywood, from martial arts cinema to Oscar-winning recognition, Michelle Yeoh's journey reflects a rare kind of global ascent, one that transforms personal success into worldwide legacy. 2. Zeti Akhtar Aziz, the financial system power. At number 2 is a woman whose power is not measured by celebrity status or public attention, but by her role at the very center of Malaysia's financial system. Zeti Akhtar Aziz is one of Malaysia's most respected financial figures, best known for her tenure as the governor of Bank Negara Malaysia, the country's central bank. This position placed her at the heart of monetary policy, financial regulation, and economic stability for the entire nation. To understand the scale of her influence, you have to understand what a central bank governor actually controls: interest rates, currency stability, banking systems, national financial policy. These are not small responsibilities. These are levers that affect every business, every investor, and every household in the country. During her leadership, she became widely recognized for maintaining financial stability, especially during periods of global economic uncertainty. Her decisions and policies were closely watched, not just in Malaysia, but across international financial institutions and global markets. Because when a central bank speaks, markets respond. That is the level of influence she operated at. Unlike traditional business figures who accumulate wealth through ownership of companies, Zeti Akhtar Aziz's influence is institutional. Her power came from overseeing the system that regulates how money flows through an entire economy. And that kind of role places her in a very rare category. Not just wealth creators, but system stabilizers. Financially, individuals in such positions are compensated at high professional levels, but the true value is not in personal net worth alone. It is in access, authority, and long-term influence over national financial structures. Even after her tenure, her reputation continues to carry significant weight in economic and policy discussions, both within Malaysia and internationally. That lasting credibility is part of what defines elite financial influence. It does not disappear when the title ends. It continues. What makes Zeti Akhtar Aziz stand out in this countdown is the nature of her power. While others on this list operate in business, entertainment, or dynastic wealth, she operated within the framework that governs them all. Because before any empire grows, before any company expands, before any wealth is created, there is always a system that enables it, and she was one of the individuals responsible for overseeing that system. In Kuala Lumpur's elite hierarchy, her name represents something fundamental: control over financial stability, institutional trust, and economic direction at the highest level. But while some women influence the systems that control money itself, the final figure on this list represents something far more controversial, where wealth, proximity to power, and elite access collide at the highest level of society. 1. Rosmah Mansor, elite power and high society access. And at number 1, we arrive at a figure whose name has been one of the most widely recognized and most heavily discussed within Malaysia's modern elite landscape. A woman whose life has often been associated with proximity to power, luxury, and high-level access to the country's most influential circles. Rosmah Mansor is a Malaysian public figure widely known for her position within the country's political elite and her long-standing presence in high society environments. Unlike corporate leaders or financial executives, her influence is not defined by running a business empire or managing an institution, but by her proximity to power and the lifestyle that comes with it. In elite circles, proximity itself becomes a form of influence. Throughout the years, she has been associated with a lifestyle characterized by luxury assets, international travel, and access to high-profile social environments. Her public presence has often drawn attention, not only because of her visibility, but because of the symbolic representation of elite access in Malaysia's political and social structure. However, what makes her position in this countdown significant is not just public perception. It is the way she represents a broader theme that runs through all the entries in this list. Access to power structures. While others in this video built companies, led financial institutions, or rose through global industries, Rosmah Mansor represents a different kind of positioning, one where influence is closely tied to proximity within the highest levels of political and social hierarchy. And in many elite environments around the world, that proximity translates into visibility, opportunity, and access that extends beyond traditional business frameworks. Her name has also been widely covered in media discussions, investigations, and public debates over the years, making her one of the most recognized figures in Malaysia's modern elite narrative. That level of attention further amplifies her presence within public discourse, regardless of perspective. But beyond the headlines and discussions, What stands out in the context of this countdown is how she fits into the broader theme of elite women connected to power systems, whether through family, institutions, or high-level networks. Because in the world of crazy rich Asians narratives, wealth is not always just about ownership. Sometimes it is about position and access. In Kuala Lumpur's hierarchy of influence, Rosmah Mansor stands as a figure whose name has remained closely tied to discussions around elite lifestyles, political proximity, and high society visibility. And that is what brings this entire countdown full circle. From tech founders to dynastic heirs to cultural icons to financial gatekeepers to elite access figures at the very top. And there you have it. 8 powerful women connected to wealth, influence, and empires that shape far more than what the public sees. From tech billionaires to legacy dynasties and global icons, their stories reveal one thing clearly: real power doesn't always make noise. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the world of elite wealth and hidden influence, because there's always more beneath the surface.